There is a building near you wrapped in scaffolding. It has been there a long time, maybe a year, maybe 5. You walk under it, you duck the low beams, you lose the sunlight on that side of the street, and you assume the same thing everyone assumes, that someone is working on the building. Usually nobody is. The scaffolding is not up because work is happening. In a lot of cases, the scaffolding is up because work is not happening. And once you understand why, you cannot look at a scaffold the same way again. Start with what a scaffold actually is. Not structurally, commercially, a scaffold is not a construction service. It is a rental. The steel does not belong to the building owner, it belongs to a scaffolding company. That company delivers the steel, assembles it around the building and leaves it there. And then it charges by the month. Every month that steel stands there, the meter runs. This is the single most important fact about the business, and it is the one nobody thinks about. The scaffolding company is not paid to build the scaffold. It is paid for how long the scaffold stays. Think about what that means for the incentives. A contractor who fixes a roof wants to finish. They get paid on completion. The faster they finish, the sooner they get paid and the sooner they move to the next job. A scaffolding company is the opposite. Its revenue depends on duration. A job that finishes in 3 months earns 3 months of rent. A job that never quite finishes earns rent indefinitely. Nobody has to do anything dishonest for this to work. The company does not have to sabotage anything. It simply has no reason at all to care whether the repair behind the scaffold ever gets done. And usually it doesn't. So now the real question: why would a building owner leave rented steel around their building for years? That sounds expensive. It is expensive. It is just less expensive than the alternative. Here is the situation most owners are actually in. Older buildings have facades. Brick, stone, concrete, terracotta, facades deteriorate, pieces come loose. And a piece of masonry falling from the 8th floor onto a sidewalk is a genuinely serious event. So many cities passed laws requiring owners of taller buildings to have their facades inspected on a regular cycle. If the inspection finds a hazard, the owner has an obligation. They must protect the public below, and they must repair the facade. Notice that those are two separate requirements. Protecting the public means putting up a shed over the sidewalk so that anything falling lands on steel instead of a person. That can be done in days. Repairing the facade means restoring the stonework on a large old building. That can cost an enormous amount of money. It requires engineers, permits, specialized masons, and a long schedule. And here is where the entire business is born. The law requires you to protect the sidewalk immediately. It does not, in practice, force you to complete the repair on any particular timeline, so the owner puts up the shed, and then they wait, not because they are lazy. Because the arithmetic points that way. Scaffolding rent is a predictable monthly cost. It comes out of operating expenses. It is annoying but survivable. A full facade restoration is a single enormous capital expense that has to be financed, approved, scheduled, and paid for all at once. One is a small bill every month, the other is a very large bill right now. Faced with that choice, a lot of owners choose the small bill, every month, for years. The scaffolding stops being a temporary measure and becomes a permanent line item. It is cheaper to rent protection from the problem than to fix the problem. And the moment that becomes true, the scaffold has no reason to ever come down. This is why you see sheds that have been standing longer than some businesses on the block have existed. In one major American city, there are thousands of these sheds up at any given moment, and some individual ones have stood for well over a decade. Not abandoned, not forgotten. Rented continuously the whole time. Now think about who is actually paying for this arrangement. The building owner pays rent, yes, but the owner is not absorbing the real cost. Consider the ground floor. A shop under a sidewalk shed loses its storefront. The windows are behind steel. The signage is blocked. The light is gone. People walking past do not see the shop because there is a dark tunnel where the shop used to be. Foot traffic drops. Sales drop. That business is paying for the scaffolding and it is not on the lease. Consider the residents. Apartments on the lower floors lose date. Windows face a steel deck. Some units become harder to rent. Consider the street itself. A sidewalk shed is dark. It narrows the walkway. It creates a covered space with poor visibility that a lot of people reasonably avoid at night. None of those costs appear on anyone's balance sheet. They are spread across everyone who happens to live, shop, or walk on that block. Meanwhile, the monthly invoice goes to one company for a piece of steel it already owns and already paid for years ago. Because that is the other half of this business. Scaffolding is a durable asset. The same steel gets used again and again across dozens of jobs over its life. The company buys it once. Then it rents it out repeatedly, for decades, with almost no additional cost beyond transport, assembly, and inspection. There is no inventory to replace, no product to reinvent, no customer to reconvince every month. The revenue arrives on its own as long as the steel stays standing. That makes scaffolding one of the purest versions of a pattern that shows up everywhere in infrastructure. Buy a durable asset once. Rent it repeatedly, get paid for time rather than for outcomes. Now the honest counterpoint, because there is one. These laws exist for a real reason. People have been killed by falling masonry. That is the event the inspection cycle was written to prevent, and the sheds do work. They genuinely stop debris from reaching the sidewalk, so the scaffolding is not a scam. It is a safety measure doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem is not the shed. The problem is that the rule requires the protection urgently and the repair eventually. That gap between immediately and eventually is the entire market. The scaffolding industry did not create that gap. It just moved into it and set up a monthly billing cycle, and that is the thing worth carrying with you. A scaffold looks like a sign of progress. Steel going up around a building reads instinctively as something being improved. Very often it means the opposite. It means a repair was required and postponed again, and that postponing it turned out to be affordable. The steel is not there because the building is being fixed. The steel is there because it is cheaper than fixing the building. Somebody is paid every month for as long as that remains true. And that is the hidden business behind scaffolding, not construction. Rent collected on a problem nobody is in any hurry to solve.